Have you ever wondered why some people seem to create extraordinary success while others stay stuck? What separates the dreamers from the doers, the talkers from the achievers? If you've asked yourself these questions, you're in the right place. Today, we're diving into the timeless wisdom of Jim Rohn, the man whose teachings shaped legends like Tony Robbins and countless entrepreneurs worldwide. Before we start, make sure you subscribe and join this journey of growth so you never miss a chance to elevate your life. 1. The philosophy of growth. Jim Rohn often said, "Don't wish it were easier, wish you were better." Those few words summarize the very heart of personal development. Growth is not about asking the world to lighten the load, but about strengthening yourself to carry it. Life will never adjust itself to your comfort level, and the challenges you face will rarely shrink to match your wishes. Instead, you must rise to the challenge by becoming more capable, more resilient, and more resourceful. Growth, then, is not a passive hope, but an active responsibility. Too often, people wait for favorable circumstances, believing that if luck, timing, or the right opportunity arrives, their lives will change. Yet, opportunities are not magnets that appear randomly. They are drawn to those who prepare for them. Think of it as planting seeds. A farmer does not simply hope the soil will produce crops. He cultivates, waters, and cares for it. Likewise, you cannot expect life to reward you with abundance if you have not nurtured yourself into the kind of person who can sustain and multiply that abundance. When you change your philosophy, you change your harvest. Your philosophy, the collection of beliefs and principles that guide your actions, determines your direction in life. If you see growth as possible, if you truly believe that who you are today is not the ceiling of your potential, then you naturally seek learning, improvement, and challenge. On the other hand, if you adopt a fixed mindset and convince yourself that your circumstances or abilities are unchangeable, you will remain stuck in place, trapped by your own perspective. In this sense, philosophy is more than intellectual thought. It is a compass, silently pointing toward the results you will experience. Jim Rohn emphasized that success always begins with mindset. It is not external events that shape us, but the meaning we give them. Two people can face the same setback. One sees it as evidence of failure, while the other sees it as a lesson and a stepping stone. The difference lies not in the event, but in the philosophy guiding their interpretation. This is why cultivating a philosophy of growth is essential. When you orient your thinking toward progress, you see opportunities where others see obstacles. Consider how environment influences philosophy. If you constantly surround yourself with voices of doubt, negativity, or complacency, you may unconsciously absorb their worldview. You might begin to believe that mediocrity is acceptable or that striving for more is unrealistic. Yet, just as a plant bends toward sunlight, you too will grow in the direction of the influences you allow around you. This is why Rohn advised, you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. The question becomes, are you shaping your philosophy intentionally, or is it being shaped for you by your environment? To take ownership of your philosophy is to take ownership of your destiny. It means consciously choosing what ideas you allow to take root in your mind. Reading books that challenge your thinking, listening to mentors who elevate your perspective, and reflecting on your own experiences with honesty, these are the practices that expand your worldview. Growth does not come by accident. It comes through deliberate effort to reshape how you see yourself and your possibilities. So pause and ask yourself, what philosophy am I living by? Is it one of growth, responsibility, and possibility? Or is it one of resignation, blame, and limitation? Life rewards the philosophy you choose, whether you realize it or not. To build a life of success, you must first build a philosophy that supports it. Growth begins in the mind, long before it appears in reality. When you take control of your philosophy, you take control of your future.
2.
Discipline in all things. Jim Rohn reminded us that discipline is the bridge between goals and accomplishment. You can dream, you can plan, and you can visualize success, but none of it matters unless you cross that bridge. And that bridge is not built overnight or with giant, dramatic actions. It is built brick by brick through the daily practice of discipline in the small things. Discipline is not glamorous, yet it is the quiet force behind every success story. It is the decision to pick up a book instead of scrolling endlessly on your phone. It is the choice to save a portion of your income rather than spending impulsively. It is waking up when the alarm rings, even when your body craves another hour of sleep. These small, seemingly insignificant choices accumulate over time, creating habits that shape your destiny. The irony is that while motivation often sparks excitement, it fades quickly. Discipline, however, does not rely on emotion. It is the structure that carries you forward when motivation disappears. Jim Rohn often taught that success is nothing more than a few simple disciplines practiced every day. Notice the word simple. Discipline does not demand brilliance, luck, or extraordinary talent. It asks only for consistency. The person who reads for 20 minutes a day, practices their craft diligently, and manages their time wisely will, over years, surpass the person who waits for inspiration to strike. Success, then, is less about intensity and more about persistence. The challenge with discipline is that it requires sacrifice in the present for rewards in the future. It is the art of delaying gratification, of choosing what you want most over what you want now. Think of the athlete who trains daily, resisting comfort in order to compete at their best, or the student who studies diligently while others party in order to secure a brighter future. Discipline demands short-term discomfort, but promises long-term fulfillment. Without it, dreams remain fantasies. With it, they become inevitable. Consider also how discipline creates freedom. At first, discipline feels restrictive, boundaries, rules, routines. Yet paradoxically, it is discipline that creates true liberty. A disciplined body enjoys the freedom of health and energy. Disciplined finances bring the freedom of choice and security. Disciplined learning brings the freedom to adapt, innovate, and thrive. Without discipline, life is ruled by impulses and circumstances. With discipline, you take the driver's seat. Another important truth Rohn emphasized is that discipline compounds. Just as neglect accumulates into chaos, discipline accumulates into mastery. Missing one workout may not ruin your health, but repeated neglect leads to decline. Similarly, choosing discipline consistently, even in small doses, builds momentum. Over time, the compounding effect of discipline transforms not just your results, but your character. You begin to trust yourself. You begin to believe in your ability to follow through. This self-trust is one of the greatest gifts discipline gives. Discipline also connects directly to leadership. A leader who cannot govern themselves cannot expect to guide others. Discipline in habits, words, and actions establishes credibility. People follow those who model consistency, not those who preach it without practicing it. Your discipline inspires others more than your words ever could. Ultimately, discipline is not about punishment, it is about empowerment. It is the tool that closes the gap between where you are and where you want to be. Ask yourself, where in my life am I relying on motivation instead of discipline? Where could I implement small, consistent habits that move me closer to my vision? Discipline is not a one-time act. It is a lifelong companion. If you embrace it, it will carry you to places talent alone never could. As Rohn taught, discipline is the bridge. Without it, you stand stranded with dreams unrealized. With it, you walk steadily toward the life you imagine.
3. The mastery of skills. In a world that rewards value, your skills are your greatest currency. Titles fade, markets change, and trends come and go, but skills remain transferable, adaptable, and indispensable. If you want to elevate your life, you must elevate what you can do. This is why Jim Rohn emphasized skill development as the cornerstone of success. To change your life, you must first change what you bring to the table. Mastery is not the result of casual dabbling. It does not come from scattered attention or half-hearted effort. Mastery is born from deliberate practice, purposeful, consistent, and focused repetition aimed at improvement. Think of the musician practicing scales for hours, the writer revising drafts relentlessly, or the entrepreneur refining their sales pitch again and again. Each repetition may feel small, even tedious, but mastery lives in the accumulation of effort. Skills not only build competence, but also confidence. When you know you are skilled, you carry yourself differently. You speak with authority, act with assurance, and approach opportunities with readiness. Confidence rooted in skill is not arrogance. It is the quiet conviction that you can deliver. This confidence, in turn, attracts opportunities. Employers, clients, and collaborators are drawn to those who demonstrate mastery, because mastery signals reliability and value. Jim Rohn often contrasted the wishful thinker with the skillful doer. Many people hope for better opportunities, but few prepare for them. They wish for higher income, yet never invest in learning skills that justify it. They wish for influence, yet never practice communication. The truth is simple. The marketplace does not reward wishes, it rewards value. And value is the byproduct of skill. Consider how skill mastery expands your options. A person with limited skills is confined to limited opportunities, but as you grow your skill set, doors multiply. A skilled communicator can lead, persuade, and inspire. A skilled thinker can solve problems and innovate. A skilled craftsman can produce excellence in their field. Each skill mastered becomes a key, unlocking new possibilities that were once inaccessible. The journey of mastery also reshapes character. To commit to skill development requires patience, humility, and persistence. You must endure the frustration of mistakes, the boredom of repetition, and the vulnerability of being a beginner. Yet through this process, you cultivate resilience and grit. Mastery is not only about what you gain externally, it is about who you become internally. It is worth noting that mastery of skills does not end. Even the expert must continue learning because the world evolves and knowledge advances. The best professionals remain students at heart, always refining, always adapting. This humility to keep learning is itself a skill, and perhaps one of the most valuable in a rapidly changing world. Ask yourself, what skills am I committed to mastering? Not dabbling in, not experimenting with, but truly mastering. The answer to that question will determine your trajectory. If you commit to excellence in your craft, if you dedicate yourself to deliberate practice, the rewards will follow. Ultimately, mastery of skills is about contribution. When you bring valuable skills to the world, you do not merely seek success, you create it. You become a person of value. And as Jim Rohn often taught, if you want to be successful, learn to bring value to the marketplace. That value is built, refined, and multiplied through skill mastery. Your future will not be shaped by what you wish for, but by what you can do exceptionally well. And that is the true path to transformation. 4. Wealth as a reflection of self-mastery. Wealth, in Jim Rohn's philosophy, was never reduced to the balance of a bank account or the accumulation of assets. It was, at its core, a reflection of who you became along the way. He often taught that money follows value, and value follows character. That short statement captures the essence of self-mastery.
Before wealth can show up in the outer world, it must first be cultivated in the inner world. If a person cannot manage their emotions, their time, their energy, or their relationships, then no amount of financial success will sustain itself. Temporary gains may occur through luck or external circumstances, but lasting prosperity, true wealth, demands a foundation of discipline, integrity, and growth. In this way, wealth is not something you pursue directly. It is the shadow cast by the person you become when you master yourself. Jim Rohn frequently emphasized that habits are the invisible architecture of destiny. Every dollar earned, every opportunity attracted, every door opened or closed is tied to the habits we create and the disciplines we practice daily. When you rise early, when you invest in learning, when you keep promises to yourself, you are building character. This character transforms into competence, reliability, and vision, which in turn creates value for others. And when you deliver value consistently, wealth follows as a byproduct. The key is that wealth is not the aim, it is the reward for living rightly. Just as fruit grows naturally on a well-tended tree, so too does financial abundance grow naturally from a life of consistent self-mastery. Consider the person who wins the lottery overnight. Without habits of discipline, without mastery over spending, without an understanding of value creation, statistics show they often lose it all within a few short years. Why? Because money in the hands of an undisciplined person simply magnifies their lack of self-control. Contrast this with someone who has spent years developing patience, skills, and resilience. Even if they were to lose everything, they could rebuild, because wealth was never about the numbers, it was about the wisdom, discipline, and growth embedded within them. Jim Rohn's insight here is that wealth is not pursued, it is attracted by the person you become when you master yourself. Wealth, then, should be seen not only as financial prosperity, but as a full spectrum of abundance, relationships, health, personal freedom, and peace of mind. To be wealthy is to master your time so that you control your day rather than being enslaved by distractions. To be wealthy is to master your thoughts so that fear does not paralyze you and envy does not poison you. To be wealthy is to master your actions so that you consistently sow seeds that later bloom into opportunity. And yes, to be wealthy is also to steward money wisely, spending less than you earn, investing rather than wasting, and giving generously rather than hoarding. All of these are forms of self-mastery that shape the person into one who naturally attracts prosperity. In truth, wealth reveals character more than it creates it. If a person is selfish, wealth will only magnify their selfishness. If a person is generous, wealth will only expand their generosity. That is why Jim Rohn taught that the real work is internal. Master yourself, and you master your destiny. Grow yourself, and wealth will not be something you anxiously chase. It will be something that flows toward you because you have become the kind of person who cannot help but generate it. The greatest pursuit, therefore, is not wealth itself, but the disciplined, principled, intentional self-development that makes wealth inevitable.
5. Leaving a legacy. At the conclusion of life's journey, the question that remains is not how much did you have, but how much did you give? Legacy is never measured in numbers, for numbers fade and can be forgotten. True legacy is measured in the lives you touch, the lessons you pass down, and the inspiration you leave behind. Jim Rohn himself is a living testament to this truth. Though he achieved wealth and success, what continues to resonate decades later are not his financial statements, but his words, his teachings, and the countless men and women who were transformed because of him. His legacy was not built on accumulation, but on contribution. In this way, leaving a legacy becomes the highest calling, for it transcends the individual and ripples outward into generations. A legacy begins with intention. Many drift through life, working hard to build careers or to accumulate possessions, without ever considering what story their lives will tell once they are gone. Yet every day, with every action, we are writing chapters of that story. The kindness you extend to a stranger, the wisdom you pass on to a child, the encouragement you give to a struggling friend, all of these are deposits into the account of legacy. Material possessions may disappear, but the influence of character, words, and example endures long after we are gone. Jim Rohn's question still challenges us today. What will your legacy be? Leaving a legacy does not require fame or global recognition. It is not about millions of followers or monuments in your honor. Rather, it is about the unseen, often quiet influence you exert on those around you. A teacher who awakens a student's potential leaves a legacy. A parent who models integrity and discipline leaves a legacy. A leader who treats others with fairness and respect leaves a legacy. In fact, some of the greatest legacies are not recognized until long after the person is gone, when the seeds they planted begin to bloom in the lives of others. This is why the pursuit of legacy is not about ego, but about stewardship. What you do with the time, talents, and opportunities you have been entrusted with. Jim Rohn's voice continues to echo today precisely because his principles were timeless. He was not teaching trends, he was articulating truths about discipline, character, and personal growth that remain relevant in every generation. His legacy is found in the ripple effect. His ideas shaped leaders like Tony Robbins, who then went on to impact millions more. This compounding influence shows how a single life, when dedicated to growth and contribution, can touch more people than one could ever count. That is the essence of legacy, a torch passed on, not extinguished when one life ends, but carried forward in new hands. For those reflecting on their own journey, the question of legacy is both sobering and inspiring. It forces us to ask, if I were gone tomorrow, what would remain of me? Would it be debt, regret, and missed opportunities? Or would it be lessons, love, and the memory of someone who gave their best? Legacy is not something you build at the end of life. It is something you build daily in the choices you make and the people you touch. To live with legacy in mind is to live with purpose. It is to realize that your words, your actions, and your presence are all part of the story you are leaving behind. Jim Rohn's enduring challenge remains: live not only for success, but for significance. For at the end of it all, your true wealth will not be measured in what you accumulated, but in what you gave away.
So, remember, shape your philosophy, practice discipline, master your skills, build wealth through self-mastery, and above all, leave a legacy worth remembering. If this message stirred something in you, subscribe and stay connected, because the journey of self-improvement is never finished, and your best chapter has yet to be written.